Did the Phantom Menace change movies forever? That is the headline on this week's Force Friday show. And Stephen, ponder that question to anybody that's potentially watching. I'm pondering it to you now, Stephen. It's a great little article from The Verge.
Yeah.
I say little, it's nothing little about this article. It's never ending. I've read every line. But it's very interesting breakdown of potentially why The Phantom Menace was a bit of a pioneering movie 20 years ago, Stephen, and just the manner in which it approached prequels and interconnecting stories and rejuvenating perhaps a dead franchise. Do you think, though, that it was a pioneering movie, and did it change movies forever?
Technically, yeah, I think it did, John.
Not just that, right, Stephen? Technically,
we talked about this maybe 3-4 weeks ago in regards to the technical side of this movie. The character of Jar Jar Binks, regardless of what you think of the character and its execution, was a technological breakthrough in filmmaking. When you look at the interactions between that CG character, Ahmed Best's performance as well, you can't really knock him for his performance. He did what he was asked to do. The sheer look of the character as well, although it wasn't the best character George Lucas ever created, was believable as in being interacting with these real life actors. I thought it was great. A lot of people seem to forget that the Phantom Menace as well used a lot of
practical.
I was going to say old-fashioned techniques, but practical effects, as they're called, John. I've seen a lot of the screenshots, particularly from like the pod race stuff. You know, the sort of stadium thing.
Yeah, and the hangar as well with the actual pod racers inside.
I also saw the other day there was this model of I think it was like the Palace that was on
feed.
And it was to scale, and I think that was the sort of punchline underneath the photograph was, it's not just the sequel trilogy, it uses practical effects. Look at this. And it's right, it did use a lot of them. A lot of the sets were practical as well. It wasn't until we moved into episode 2 that he really went digital heavier. But as far as technical terms go, yes, it's very pioneering. As far as story-wise goes, it's very underwhelming.
Yeah, Stephen, and they also go on to say in the article, incidentally, that just the manner in which he approached the lead-up to rejuvenating the franchise with the prequel trilogy, with the likes of Timothy Zahn's heir to the Empire, I should say, and just working with in conjunction, I can't recall what the actual name of the company was that produced the comics and whatnot. It'll come to me at some point, but working in conjunction with them to bring out comic books and novel stories, novelising the
Barnes and Noble,
maybe that, but there was another one, I can't recall what it is, but just the way that they were testing the waters with the franchise to see if there was still an interest there, obviously 10-15 years on, because this was in the early 90s, it was probably less than that actually, it was probably only about 9 years, 7 years, 8 years, something like that, because it was 83, wasn't it, Return of the Jedi, and then it was 91, so it's 8 years. But just the manner in which they tested the water with the comics and the novels, and just the way that interconnected and made also the lore and the mythology all the richer, and made the experience of watching the movies all the richer. Of course, George actually came in and retconned a lot of things that were in the Timothy Zahn initial novels, like the clones going crazy and obviously turning, and things like that, and being villains. The clones turned out to be the good guys until Order 66 was obviously sent out by the chief himself to kill all the Jedi. So he retconned a lot of things, but then again, some of the things added into the mythology. People spent 10 years, maybe not as long as 10 years, I'm getting my years out of sync here, I'm getting discombobulated, as I like to say. About 8 years anyway, reading these novels, these comics, and the way it tied into games and made an interconnected universe of sorts. This is something we've seen done time and again now. It's the norm now with Marvel and DCU and things like that. We have novels, we have short TV shows, animated shows, games, and they're all connecting in to the cinematic universes in general, Stephen. And they do say in this as well that way back in the 1950s, prequels were something that was kind of floating around in the 1950s, but it wasn't really till this movie that we actually seen it done on a big blockbuster
John,
scale.
Because the actual word itself, prequel, I never heard till the Phantom Menace.
No.
I just obviously, there'd been films made in that
that's
way
what they
before,
say.
but certainly, my generation, that was the first time I ever heard that phrase, the prequel trilogy. I just thought it was a buzzword at the time, but going back to 1999, probably 1998 actually, when we got that first trailer, it was an exciting time for Star Wars fans. We waited 16 years for the next adventures, in this galaxy far, far away. And as I said, it was very underwhelming, the storyline, but technically it was I don't want to say a masterpiece, certainly not. There's been better films that were made before that, Jurassic Park being one of them.
Oh yeah, I was just watching a great video of CGI.
Terminator 2 as well, but on Star Wars terms, yes, it was a breakthrough, and it did open up all these possibilities to do things that George Lucas could only dream of when he first started this adventure back in the early 70s. The other thing as well I was going to talk about was that the Phantom Menace, its timing as well, you've got to remember this came out the same year as The Matrix as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say possibly the Phantom Menace has probably aged worse than The Matrix. I don't know what your views are on that, John. I was reading a poll on social media the other day in regards to this, putting both films, totally different films, so it's a bit unfair, but I don't think the Phantom Menace has aged as bad as Attack of the Clones.
No, I actually think the Phantom Menace gets a lot of short shrift from fans. I don't think it's as bad in terms of visuals as people like to make out, actually, and still, it's probably one of the better aged films. I think the worst is clearly Attack of the Clones. Yeah. That, and even Revenge of the Sith in certain parts is terrible, but a lot of that is actually pretty decent. It was at Utapa they went to in Revenge of the Sith. That was a bit terrible when he obviously met up. What was that? When he met up with Grievous? He killed Grievous, didn't he? Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, parts of that. But I actually think the Phantom Menace as a whole, in the whole prequel trilogy, I actually think that is the best in terms of aging. And it's purely down to, as you did say, Stephen, them utilising a large part of practical effects in conjunction with Disney.
You can't tell me, John, that those shots on Wakanda in Infinity War weren't inspired by the Phantom Menace. You cannot tell me there wasn't inspiration there. I'm not saying execution, I'm saying the idea, the concept of having this battling tribe fighting against the odds. The landscape is very similar too, and you've got that big shield as well coming down. So I think the Russos have taken inspiration from George Lucas in that sense.
And it just shows you how far it's
did it better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, both. This is all down, as you did say though, Stephen, to Lucasfilm and George and what is it, ILM, changing the game. I mean, you go back at the time, I was in absolute awe of the effects. They weren't as bad as people made out. Certainly not back in those days. I didn't have any issues with even Attack of the Clones back when it released. Revenge of the Sith, I still recall that opening sequence panning down.
The problem with a lot,
affection.
The problem a lot of people have got, especially that generation, our generation, who grew up with the original trilogy. Yes, it's jarring when you look at the visuals that are in the closing sort of half an hour of Return of the Jedi, just to give an example. When you look at those and how they've aged, and then the next Star Wars film was seen as Episode 1 in 1999, and you've got these Gungans all running about with these big glowing balls and stuff like that, and the ships and the weapons and all that. Yeah, it's jarring. You can't.
The mixture of technology. It's meant to be set 20, 30 years in the past, and yet some of the technology looks more advanced. And of course, I've retconned that in roundabout ways, Stephen, with obviously Canon and stuff like that, saying that, well, we visited more richer environments where it's, aristocratic figures and stuff like that who have access to better money and more money and better technology, whereas in the original trilogy it was more downtrodden planets. The Resistance didn't have a lot of money, were really scraping up what they could to get ships and stuff like that. And then the sanitised military sort of environments of the Empire. So
I think it's only since that trilogy came out, and obviously now, and with the TV series that are coming out, we're getting to look back in hindsight and say, well, the galaxy is a bigger place, and that possibly could be accepted that, in that original trilogy, as you said, John, we're going back to these poorer sort of parts, regions, if you like, where technology is few and far between, where there isn't a lot of investment in these planets. And you're right, I think when you look back at the prequel trilogy, you're going to places where Padme grew up and stuff like that. She had a royal background.
Yeah.
So you can accept that.
Palatial setting, Stephen.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, though. But Stephen, I'm going to move on because
Yeah.
I think we've done that one pretty much to the death, and it's going to be interconnected into a similar theme. It's all following the aftermath of Game of Thrones, the finale. There's been a petition signed by over 1 million people, not happy, urging the Benioff and Weiss to rewrite the series or just get other writers in to do it better.
Yeah.
And now the question that's been pondered is, with this coming off the back of obviously the criticism and the obviously uproar after the Last Jedi and the criticism of Star Wars, this is the next big fan uprising, if you'd like. I don't want to say fan uprising because I think it's still a smaller proportion of the fan base. But what they're saying essentially is, should the Star Wars prequels be remade? Going on the back of this Game of Thrones uproar, where they're calling for it to be remade. Do you think they should be remade, Stephen? I actually don't think they should.
No.
No.
Yeah. Listen, I'll elaborate. I don't think they should because...
I think you could end it with one word there.
No,
yeah,
because I've said this time and time again in regards to the prequel trilogy. The problem isn't the story.
No.
The problem is the execution of the delivery of the lines and some of the effects in the trilogy as a whole. I know we were talking about Phantom Menace, being a technological breakthrough, but you can't avoid the Attack of the Clones digital. I think that was one of the first films, if not the first film, that was shot totally on digital format. But Kenny Baker, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, Ian McDermott,
Ewan McGregor,
Ewan McGregor as well, Liam Neeson, Natalie Portman. You can't really ignore their contribution to the prequels.
No.
Especially Ewan McGregor and Ian McDermott.
The two standouts by a mile for me.
And Natalie Portman as well, to be fair.
Natalie Portman, she done okay in the first film or two. Got a little bit crap at the end.
I think they actually watered her character down near the end,
well, they had to, Stephen, because they had to kind of develop this sort of a
relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin,
and the rift,
and
what drove him to the dark side in the end. But I absolutely agree, Stephen, it shouldn't be remade. It's an absolute nonsense. Just like the Game of Thrones shouldn't be remade. I'm not a fan of the direction they took it. Felt it was rushed. It was an absolute joke. They put 3 series into one. But look, that shouldn't be remade either. It's done. You move on.
Listen, John,
you go on to new things.
It is what it is. I said this after The Last Jedi as well. A few weeks later, once I'd absorbed everything about that movie, I decided it wasn't that great.
Make a piece of it though.
Yeah, that's it. You just got to, it is what it is. Remaking it doesn't work, I'm afraid.
It's done now.
Yeah, Lucasfilm have released a film. You've all seen it, whether you like it or not.
And when they're going to get $300 million to remake it.
And how are they going to make me forget the film that was released?
Exactly, it's impossible, Stephen. And the other reason that it shouldn't be remade, these films shouldn't be remade, is purely because, as you did say, of all the various good parts within, some of the turgid dialogue and whatnot, there was some epic moments in there, even though it was all digital, and you can look at the Yoda sequence of him bouncing it around. I still really enjoy Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku in that series, the late great Christopher Lee.
I forgot about him,
His interactions with Obi-Wan and obviously with Anakin Skywalker schooling them.
Yeah. Jango Fett as well was
not
a
just
cool
that
character.
as well, Stephen, the actual fighting styles, the lightsaber fighting styles that were introduced,
Yeah.
added to the lore and the mythology. So there was elements within the prequel trilogy which added tremendously to the Star Wars canon. Obviously the dialogue, as you did say, the overwhelming majority of the CG, which has aged terribly. But there's too many good moments, too many great performances from the likes of Ian McDermott, as you said, Ewan McGregor, and some epic sequences, some epic music in there. Also the Duel of Fates. I'd never want that to be taken out.
No.
And the other reason, finally, is that there's a whole host of people who grew up, as I said previously, with these movies, who are starting to change opinions and perceptions on the prequel trilogy, because they loved it when they were younger, and they've continued that love and affinity with these characters as they've grown older. And we're seeing the older people who hated it moving off and hating and focusing on different things, and these guys still love it.
It's also difficult as well, John. This is going off on a tangent because what I'm about to say, it doesn't really matter if we stick with the original 3 prequel films or they're remade. It's still going to be, the end result's going to be the same. That's the problem George Lucas had with episodes 1 to 3. It had a start point and it had to reach that end point that goes into episode 4.
Yeah.
So we knew what was going to happen. We knew Obi-Wan Kenobi was going to survive. We knew that Anakin Skywalker was going to turn to the dark side. We knew that Padme wasn't going to survive that trilogy. So it's a very hard thing to do when you know...
Did we? Because technically Princess Leia says at the end of Return of the Jedi, I knew her. I have memories of her. So how could she remember when she was just born? That was a little mistake from George.
Yeah.
He screwed that one up, but you can't get them all right. But you're right, Stephen. You're right. But look, talking about prequels, Stephen, potential recasting of Princess Leia is a little rumour that's popped up in obviously The Rise of Skywalker they're talking about. The potential that she could have possibly have been recast with a newer actress to film flashback, sort of a prequel footage. Now we spoke about this previously, Stephen, obviously the possibility of perhaps seeing a young Luke Skywalker having some moments with a young Leia. And I think at the time the general consensus was if this was going to be done, then it would be with her daughter, whose name completely eludes me at the moment. It's
Billy Lord, yeah.
Billy Lord. She would be the person coming in and playing her mother.
Yeah.
Now, what is your thoughts on this? Is this something that you'd like to see? Is this something you'd be happy with? A mismatch of older Leia from archival footage alongside younger Leia, perhaps explaining certain aspects. Could it be that it ties in to the parentage, the lineage of Rey? Who knows?
I don't know, John. If you told me a few years ago that they were going to put in a CG version of Carrie Fisher or Princess Leia into the tail end of Rogue One, I don't know how they would have managed that technically. It didn't really pay off well, that scene, to be honest with you, in comparison to the Tarkin scenes, which I thought was very well done. In regards to this is, obviously it's her daughter, but also she's a young actress as well. Portraying the role. I don't think I've got a problem with that with flashbacks, I've got to be honest with you. There's no other way around it other than if George Lucas had the foresight to film these scenes in the 1990s and keep them in a vault. It was the only way it was going to work. The recasting of Luke Skywalker, young Luke Skywalker as well, is another point.
But does it have to be done?
Well, unless the de-aging process, it could work if and maybe they're using Billy Lord as a template, to superimpose the likeness.
Vaguely similar.
She does a bit, if anyone's going to do it, it should be her, I suppose.
Yeah, Stephen, I just hope if they do this, that they get the same people who were involved with the de-aging of Michael Douglas.
Yeah, that was cool,
that is just epic beyond belief.
Yep.
And obviously Robert Downey Jr. as well in a previous one. I think it may have been...
Kurt Russell as well.
Yeah, Kurt Russell. So look, they're actually saying here that it could indeed be Billy Lord if it's going to be happening, and that the sequence would entail at least two characters discussing Leia's connection to the Force, and that the young princess was set to choose between a life of being a resistance leader or being a Jedi like her brother, and that she obviously chooses to be a resistance leader. So it'd be a short little sequence showing a flashback. I don't know how they would fix this into the movie, not disrupt the pace and the tone.
I think
it'd be weird.
Listen, I'm starting to build a picture in my head how this episode's going to play out. When you look back at episode 8, John, a lot of people have said this on YouTube. They've said that there's not any continuing story after The Last Jedi. There's nothing really, there's no carrot dangling in front of the audience to entice them to go back and see this film. I think The Last Jedi more or less tied a lot of things up in regards to Luke's journey. Han was already away by that point. Rey's decision to stay on the light side, Ben's decision to stay on the dark side is all there to be seen. Where do we go in episode 9? I think it's going to be sort of the new crew are going to be retracing the steps of the Force. This is where the Death Star 2 plays into it. The Emperor, his spirit's going to be there as well. I think we're going to see a few flashbacks as well. And it's going to pay homage to, I think, the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy. J.J. Abrams has said this, that episode 9 is going to tie in all trilogies. And I think that's what it's... I think we're going to really go down a trip down memory lane in this.
Yeah, that sounds like Endgame to me.
Yeah.
Perhaps having flashback sequences from a different perspective, that'd be incredible. I don't know how they do that right enough. But yeah, even if they don't do that sort of a thing with the different perspectives, just what you said would be absolutely superb, Stephen, seeing all the various different elements of a saga tying into one cohesive story and then giving us a fit conclusion, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But look, Stephen, we're going to move on to the final topic. This is going to be a short and sweet little rundown of all the various elements, the good parts of the EU expanded universe.
It's a great article,
stories,
John.
Legends, and what they could still take from this going forward and maybe using in future movies in the obviously Star Wars galaxy. The first one is obviously most of the Thrawn trilogy, utilising Thrawn. We've seen him pop up in Rebels.
Yep.
I don't think we will see him pop up in the movie, sort of aside of things now that he has been utilised beautifully with, obviously, I forget his bloody name, I'm having a nightmare here, Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
But it may be that if Dave does well with, obviously, the Mandalorian side of things, the step over into live action, he may be trusted to take this character, and maybe we have a prequel of sorts of what he was doing, if indeed he still follows the same path of the canon version or the non-canon version, where he went into the uncharted regions of the galaxy. I know that Timothy Zahn has released several novels, updated versions of the Thrawn story. I've not read them yet, so I don't actually know where the character went in the new canon, but I'd love to see Thrawn coming in. I think it'd be great.
I think the fact, John, that I know this article says the 10 things in Star Wars EU canon that Disney erased. They didn't erase the character, obviously, because he does crop up, as you say, in the animated series. And as far as cinematic, or even on one of the television series, somewhere down the line, whether it's going to be set, a long time ago, I'm very interested in seeing this character on the big screen. I've got to be honest with you. I think it would just. Do you remember? When Benicio del Toro was cast for The Last Jedi? A lot of people were speculating that he was going to be playing Thrawn. That would have been epic, to be honest with you. But yeah, definitely it would have been. But listen, it is what it is. This is one of the things that Disney have done. They take elements from the EU,
and they've done it well in the main, Stephen, I have to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah,
but the next one is Boba Fett. And I think we spoke about this to the death, Stephen. The fate of Boba Fett. Putting it into canon now, what happened to him after the Sarlacc pit, and I think we will see that. I think he'll pop up in The Mandalorian. I don't think he'll pop up in an actual movie.
That would be some reveal, yeah.
I think he'll pop up in The Mandalorian at some point, and also mix with Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian
season finale, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. I'd be up for that. I think it'll happen. I've no doubt in my mind he'll do it, because he's a character that's much beloved by the majority of the fan base. I don't see the fascination myself. I think he's a little bit of a twip. I think you'd call it a twip. A dweeb.
A dweeb.
Yeah, just filler. Just scene filler. Doesn't do much. But Stephen, I digress. We'll move on. We're both in agreement on that, I'm pretty sure. Unless you've got anything to add, in which case fire in. To the Yuzon Vong, I think they were called. Now, I never actually got to this point in my EU. Obviously, reading days, I gave up on it because it was getting ridiculous when Lando was serving like hot chocolate and stuff like that to Luke. I actually think that was in the Timothy Zahn trilogy, which was a good trilogy. I'm being harsh, but ridiculous concept. But essentially these were alien creatures that came from a different galaxy, and they were imperceptible in the Force. So I'm saying Jedis as if it's plural. Jedi is a plural word, John. Couldn't perceive them in the Force. And they were this kind of a aggressive race that came in and took over the galaxy, and there was a big battle between the galaxy far, far away that we love, and then these other guys from another galaxy even further away. So what's your take on that? I don't know much about them.
I don't know anything about them, John. I've not really got a take on them. Looking at the concept art, they look like something out of Lord of the Rings.
They do, don't they?
I think it would have been interesting. You know what? Screen Rant, where this came from, does say this is stuff that Disney have not utilised and stuff like that. They may down the line use this. It's interesting enough. I'd be very interested in this, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I think the next one we'll both agree is just rubbish. Yeah, unless it's for children.
Caravan of Courage, that's enough.
The Ewok Adventures, no.
Yeah,
unless it's a children's TV show. Shadows of the Empire. I don't really recall this, to be honest with you. Shadows of the Empire, was that? I don't know if that was.
It was material from the 1990s, yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall that one. I've got to be honest. I may have read it and it's left completely out of my mind, but yeah, I don't know whether they'd utilise that. I find it very unlikely. Yeah, I think we're done with that whole Empire phase. And we're moving off into the future and maybe further back into the past. The Clone Wars, we've done that really. The original Tartakovsky Clone Wars, no, I don't think so.
I don't know too much about that. This is obviously before Dave Filoni's.
Yeah, I think that was the original animated cartoon. Clone Wars. I think we're done with that. The Force Unleashed, no, I'm not having that.
No, the game was.
It was great,
okay,
yeah, but
it's okay.
Sam Witwer's forged a career in voice acting. I don't think he's going to get his live action break with the Force Unleashed.
It's very much like Dark Forces. It served its purpose in video games, but I wouldn't like to see that transcend onto a cinematic release.
Yeah, the original Skywalker Soul family.
No, too cheesy. Very soap opera-ish.
Jaina and Jason and I think it was Ben. I think as well.
It's Lucasfilm's version of Dallas. No.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Sorry. Mara Jade. Now this is the next one which I would love to see, Stephen. Even if she hasn't got an obvious connection with Luke, she just comes in and does her own thing.
I was so hoping that was going to be her gravestone on, on Act 2.
That would have been outstanding, Stephen.
A lot of speculation about that. It turns out it was just a rock.
Yeah, she was a very, sadly, she was a very interesting character, Stephen. She was the hand of the Emperor. These sort of personal bodyguards that had a connection to the Force. A very powerful character with an intriguing, dark sort of interesting, fractured sort of a personality. She met Luke and they became obviously embroiled throughout various different stories. Eventually married, had a kid. I'd like to see her coming in, and even if she isn't connected, as I said, with Luke, perhaps she could come back and do a Sebastian Stan Luke character and have her work. I think they could still utilise Mara Jade though, definitely could. But the final one, Stephen, is nearly all of the Knights of the Old Republic. I think we're going to get that. I think Benioff and Weiss, if they can get their fingers out of their ass, as they like to say over in the States, or arse, as they like to say here, finally get back to writing good material. Not like that abomination that was Season 8 of Game of Thrones. Maybe they were just rushing that to get into Star Wars and they can finally regain what made that TV show great again. Then I think they will.
It does say in the article, John, it does say that this period meant that there was barely any narrative restrictions on the type of characters and stories being told. I totally agree. It's one thing going really far into the future with Star Wars where you do restrict yourself because then you've got to meet that timeline at some point. If you go right back to the very beginning of time in this galaxy, then the world's your oyster, as I say. But listen, I'm very much interested in this period in time anyway, just based on from what we've seen in the EU and obviously the stuff we've seen in video games as well. Yeah, well, as we know, Stephen Bain has been brought into official canon. He was the guy that came up with the rule of two. Yeah. Or the two, there can only be two, a master and a Sith apprentice. So he's already there. You have the other characters, I think, of Darth Malik and Darth Raven. Two very interesting characters, but of course, as you did say, Stephen, open sandbox, you don't have to be backing yourself into a corner with these previously used characters. You can completely kick them out of the canon and create your own interesting, powerful Sith users. Exar Kun, I think, was another one that went way back. So there's a whole interesting array of characters you can utilise or maybe put on a new fresh lick of paint and do something interesting with them, or perhaps new characters of your own. I think they will go to the Old Republic and I cannot wait to see what Benioff and Weiss potentially have for it. But look, Stephen, we've ran out of time. That's going to bring us to the end of this week's Force Friday show. What did you make of the topics we spoke about? If you've got anything to say about them, you're intrigued, comment below, let us know what your thoughts were. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and we'll be back next Monday with MBE Box Office